Will the meeting please come to order? Today is December 5th, 2023, and this is the fifth meeting of the current term of the Metropolitan Council of Nashville and Davidson County. Will all members of the council, as well as the public, please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. The invocation is being offered this evening by the Reverend Don Bennett, pastor of The Table, Faith Collective in Nashville. Reverend Bennett is the guest of Council Member at Large Olivia Hill.
Good evening. Thank you, Councilmember Hill, for the invitation to offer this invocation this evening. Vice Mayor Henderson and the esteemed Metro Nashville City Council members, and to the residents of our city, it is my honor to be among you tonight. For those who are not of a praying tradition, know that your presence is honored here today. May we who are here take pause with you as we acknowledge that our prosperity is bound up together. For those who are of a praying tradition, I invite you to join with me now. Holy One, known by many names and beyond all names, thank you for this day, for its blessings, its opportunities, and its challenges. We pray for your presence to hover over our Nashville city as we look to you for our continued strength to rise each day. I ask your blessing on the people gathered here, residents and elected officials. May we collectively seek the betterment of the city in which we live and work and play. May they who hold power understand that it is a trust from you to be used for the services of all people. It is through grace that I ask your blessing on our public leaders, that they may do their work in a spirit of wisdom, equity, and charity. Help them use their authority to serve faithfully and to promote our common life. Holy One, may your presence accompany each resident speaker and elected official here tonight. Help them to practice humility toward one another, trusting that where there is imbalance, you will aid them to bring about justice. Direct us all to be wise citizens who act with dignity and integrity in our public discourse. Remind us that no matter where we live, everyone, Black, Hispanic, Asian, or white, gay, straight, or transgender, Muslim, Jew, Hindu, Christian, Sikh, or atheist, is our neighbor and our sibling. Holy One, may your presence accompany each resident here. Hover over us and help us to know that you are here with us now. Remind us that when in our city, no matter what age, race, denomination, or address, that you hover over. We pray, therefore, that you grant our leaders wisdom and courage to know and do what is right and good and true. And finally, we pray that you guide this meeting in a spirit of community, in the spirit of justice, and in the spirit of peace. This we pray in the name of all that we hold right and true and sacred. May it be so. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Thank you, Reverend Bennett, for solemnizing our proceeding. Members, with the first night of Hanukkah this Thursday, please mark your calendars for the Metro Nashville menorah lighting on the public square at 4 p.m. on Monday, December 11th. Members will have received an invitation from Mayor O'Connell via email this afternoon. I will be in an audit committee meeting at 4 on the 11th and unable to attend, but I do hope council and community members alike will make plans to join us downtown for this annual event. Councilman Spain kindly mentioned the Feedback Nashville initiative with the Nashville Food Project today. So I will not speak on that, but I do appreciate those council members that were able to attend today and do invite the community to follow Feedback Nashville. Lastly, members, I want to ask you to please join me tomorrow evening, December 6th, 4:30 to 6 p.m. at the MNPS Wellness Center, 2694 Fessy Court in Berry Hill, which is immediately adjacent to our MNPS headquarters for Budgets and Beyond, School Board and Metro Council strengthening and supporting MNPS together. I appreciate School Board Chair Rachel Ann Elrod and Budget Committee Chair Delisha Porterfield for working with me to pull this together. You can find all the details in RSVP to the Outlook calendar invite that you have received from Chair Elrod. All right, without objection, we're moving into the roll call. We will suspend the calling of the roll and ask the clerk to please record the names of the members present throughout the meeting. Is there a motion for adoption of the minutes from November 21st, 2023? And so moved and properly seconded. Without objection, the minutes of the meeting of November 21st are approved. Mr. Clerk, are there any messages from the mayor?
There are no messages from the mayor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clerk. All right, with that, we are moving on to Section E on our agenda, elections and confirmations. To all the nominees that are with us this evening, we appreciate your patience. And to proceed through our agenda in a timely fashion, subsequent to your election or confirmation, please remain with us and we will recognize you all at the end of this portion of our agenda. So members, that means please refrain from congratulating each individual group or group of individuals as we proceed. So basically, hold your applause till the end, the very end. Okay. Our first item is an election to fill 3 vacancies on the beer permit board. We will use our election style voting system on your tablets. This is item E1 on your agenda. The 3 vacancies on the beer permit board are for terms expiring October 31st, 2027. The nominees are Ms. Kia Jarman, nominated by Councilmember Evans, Mr. Joe Perlin, nominated by Councilmember Weiner, Mr. Kane is withdrawn, Shani Glapion is nominated by Councilmember Porterfield, and Delphine Fox was nominated by Councilmember Ellis. Mr. Clerk, would you please open the voting tablets, please? Oh, yes, ma'am, thank you. Councilwoman Sepulveda, you are recognized. Thank you for a report just on the nominees for the beer permit board election, please, specifically.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. For beer permit board election to fill 3 vacancies on the beer permit board for terms expiring October 31st, 2027. The rules and confirmations had Kia Jarman, Joe Perlin, Shani Glapion, and Delphine Fox come before us. We voted 5 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Thank you, Chair Sepulveda. I appreciate it. With that, then, and our committee report in, Mr. Clerk, please open the tablets, the vote. Is anyone else seeking to vote or have difficulty with their tablet? Anyone need assistance from ITS? Okay, all votes are in. Mr. Clerk, please show the vote. All right, Council, you have elected with 36 votes, Ms. Kia Jarman, 30 votes, Shani Glapian, and with 27 votes, Ms. Delphine Fox. So we're going to move into confirmations. And Council, I'm just going to make a general note, and then I'll go to you, Chair Sepulveda, that for confirmation votes, whether individual, as this next one is, or combined for various boards and commissions, we'll combine votes on Convention Center Authority and the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing examiners. But whether individual or combined for various boards and commissions, if needed, you may raise your hand when I ask for abstentions to abstain on a single nominee if you so choose. Okay, so with that, item E2, the reappointment of Mr. Brian Taylor for a term expiring on October 31st, 2027 to the Beer Permit Board. Councilwoman Sepulveda, Chair Sepulveda, you're recognized.
Rules voted 5 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, great. Okay, all in favor for Mr. Brian Taylor for the Beer Permit Board, please say aye. Aye. Any no, any abstaining? Okay, you appoint or reappoint Mr. Taylor. Item E3 and item E4 we'll take together regarding the Convention Center Authority. Councilwoman Sepulveda, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. For Convention Center Authority reappointment, Barrett Hobbs, we voted 5 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. And for the reappointment of Ms. Vonda McDaniel for a term expiring on September 30, 2027, we voted 5 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Thank you, Chair Sepulveda. With that, we will take together the reappointment of Mr. Barrett Hobbs and Ms. Vonda McDaniel to the Convention Center Authority. All in favor, please say aye. Any voting no? Any needing to abstain? Okay, we have reappointed Mr. Barrett Hobbs and Ms. Vonda McDaniel. Moving to item E5 for the Metropolitan Historical Commission. Councilwoman Sepulveda, you are recognized.
Thank you. For Metropolitan Historical Commission, appointment of Ms. Sandra Martin Parm for a term expiring August 1st, 2027. We voted 5 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Thank you, Chair Sepulveda. We are going to vote on the appointment of Ms. Sandra Parham to the Metropolitan Historical Commission. All in favor, please say aye. Any no? Any abstaining? Okay, we appoint Ms. Sandra Parham. E6, Hospital Authority. Chair Sepulveda, you are recognized.
Thank you. For the Hospital Authority, reappointment of Ms. Christina Smith for a term expiring on November 4th, 2028. We voted 5 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
All right. For item E6, Hospital Authority, the reappointment of Ms. Christina Smith. Anything to convey my way? Is there a second for that? Chair Sepulveda has moved with her committee report. Okay, thank you. Okay, with a motion and a second for Ms. Christina Smith, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no? Any abstaining? Okay. Seeing none. Chair Sepulveda, next we will take items E7, E8, E9, and E10 for appointments and reappointments to the Mechanical, Plumbing, and Electrical Examiners and Appeals Board all together, please, ma'am.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. We took, for the Mechanical, Plumbing, and Electrical Examiners and Appeals Board, reappointments and appointments for terms expiring in September 21st, 2027. We had Terry Atwood, Jessica Gardner, Thomas Greer, and Tommy Krantz. all voting 5 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. And with that, I would move their approval.
Do I hear a second? Okay, with a motion and a second. All in favor of Mr. Terry Atwood, Ms. Jessica Gardner, Mr. Thomas Greer, and Mr. Tommy Krantz to serve on the Mechanical, Plumbing, and Electrical Examiners Board, please say aye. Any voting no? Any wishing to abstain on a particular nominee? Okay, seeing none. Moving on to E11, the Metropolitan Development and Housing Agency, a reappointment there. Chair Sepulveda.
For the Metropolitan Development and Housing Agency, reappointment of Mr. Johnny B. Moore Jr. for a term expiring on November 5th, 2028. We voted 5 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. And with that, I would move for approval.
Do you hear a second? Okay. With a motion and a second, you are voting on Mr. Johnny B. Moore to be reappointed to the Metropolitan Development and Housing Agency. All in favor, please say aye. Any voting no? Any seeking to abstain? Okay. Item E12, to the Public Library Board. Chair Sepulveda.
For Public Library Board's appointment of Ms. Rosalind Carpenter for a term expiring on April 6, 2030, we voted 5 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. With that, I would move approval.
Okay, with a motion and a second, you are voting on the appointment of Ms. Rosalind Carpenter to the Public Library Board. All in favor, please say aye. Any voting no? Any seeking to abstain? Okay. And then lastly, item E13 for the Sexually Oriented Business Licensing Board. Chair Sepulveda, you're recognized for your committee report.
For the Sexually Oriented Business Licensing Board, appointment of Dr. Tara Allen for a term expiring on November 9, 2027. We voted 5 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. And with that, I would move approval.
With a motion and a second, we are now voting on Dr. Tara Allen to be appointed to the Sexually Oriented Business Licensing Board. All in favor say aye. Any voting no? Any seeking to abstain? Okay. With that, we have moved through elections and confirmations, and at this time, we will acknowledge everyone who has been elected and everyone who has been reconfirmed. Let's see. So if you would please rise when I call your name, and then members, if you would please hold your applause to the end so we can acknowledge everyone who has been so kind and willing to serve our city in this way. To the Beer Permit Board, you have elected Miss Kia Jarman, Miss Shani Glapion, and Miss Delphine Fox. To the Beer Permit Board, you have reappointed Mr. Brian Taylor. To the Convention Center Authority, you have reappointed Mr. Barrett Hobbs, as well as Ms. Vonda McDaniel. To the Metropolitan Historical Commission, we have appointed Ms. Sandra Martin Parham. To the Hospital Authority, you have reappointed Ms. Christina Smith. And to the Mechanical, Plumbing, and Electrical Examiners and Appeal Boards, you have reappointed Mr. Terry Atwood. You have appointed Ms. Jessica Gardner. You have reappointed Mr. Thomas Greer. And you have reappointed Mr. Tommy Krantz. To the Metropolitan Development and Housing Agency, you have reappointed Mr. Johnny B. Moore Jr. To the Public Library Board, you have appointed Ms. Rosalind Carpenter. Thank you for the correction. I appreciate it. Ms. Rosalind Carpenter, thank you. And to the Sexually Oriented Business Licensing Board, you have appointed Dr. Tara Allen. At this time, let us please acknowledge and thank all these great community members for their service. And if members will please return to their seats so we can continue with the meeting. We are now on section F, the public comment period of our agenda. Pursuant to the Tennessee Code, time is reserved for public comment on legislative items appearing on this agenda. Members of the public wishing to speak may sign up at the Metro Clerk's office counter on the day of the scheduled meeting. Public comment sign up for council meetings ends at 6 p.m. Public comment is limited to 20 minutes total at council meetings, and each speaker is allowed up to 2 minutes to speak. Requests for interpretation services can be directed to the council office prior to the meeting, and detailed information about public comment and procedures can be found online. I'm going to call members of the community who have signed up in the order in which they did so. Mr. Stephen Ryder, you're recognized, sir.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the council. I want to speak on the taser bill that's pending before you tonight. I have a problem with the taser. My concern is basically with taser-induced cardiac arrests. Too many times when people die, we are hearing, oh, it's excited delirium, or they had a heart condition or something of that nature. Frankly, in the medical field, there's no such thing as excited delirium. Doesn't exist, but medical examiners put it out there all the time. And it's wrong. If Taser International, or whatever they're going by now, has actually perfected this technology, people would not be dying. But they are. And as the gentleman who represented this company said, well, there's been over 1,000 studies. And I question that. And here's one study I'd like to see. I would like to see an upper body hit with a taser during a T wave. And that's a certain point in the cardiac rhythm. And I believe that can put you in cardiac arrest. The problem that they probably don't do that is because they might not be able to get you out of it. And you could be subject to a manslaughter charge. The police are told that this is really a de-escalation technique and it works just fine. It's not their fault. They're trained a certain way, but the technology is not there yet. And so until it is, as Mr. Nash pointed out, one life lost is one too many. And we should rethink this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ryder. Mr. Patrick Garner, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, council members. My name is Patrick Garner. I'm an 8-year resident of Nashville. I'm a bicycle commuter, environmental planner, and former bicycle mechanic. I'm a resident of District 16, and I'm really concerned about the priorities that you'd be communicating by passing the bill to provide $18 million more dollars to MNPD for tasers. $18 million can fund 100 miles of protected bicycle lanes, I rode here tonight with about 50 or 60 other bicyclists and skateboarders and members of the community who are imploring you to spend your money wisely, invest in dedicated funding for bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure. Each of the last 5 years has been the deadliest year for bicycle and pedestrians in Nashville. We are perennially one of the worst cities in the country to walk and bike in. And please consider investing this money in tools of freedom and not tools of oppression. I'd like to use the last bit of my time for a moment of intentional silence for the victims of traffic violence, including 3 people who lost their lives over the weekend. One in my neighborhood on a stretch of road that I've been begging NDOT and TDOT to invest in. So please join me in 30 seconds of silence for road traffic victims. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Garner. Mr. Garrett Davis. You're recognized, sir.
Hi, my name is Garrett Davis. I am also a resident of Nashville. I skateboard to work. I live in Music Row, and I skateboard from Music Row into downtown for my commute. I also run a skateboard group in town, and we engage in all sorts of different community activities where people of all ages come to our club. 6-year-olds to 60-year-olds come to our group, and teaching an adult how to skateboard is one of the most amazing things in the world. I'm a music teacher. Music teaching is much more boring than skateboard teaching. My point is, as he said, of the last 5 years, each year has become more and more deadly for pedestrians. And with Nashville being one of the biggest commercially tourist spots in the destination, our residents are not protected. Straight up, they are not protected. Every time I skate into Nashville, I see nails, I see chundry roads, and I see crusty pothole. And these are literally the veins that connect our city together. That is what we step on. Chundry roads, that's what our city is made from. So I humbly ask, let's not quadruple the TASER budget. Let's spend some money into public infrastructure, and let's help our dear Mima get in and out of downtown safely. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. That concludes our public comment period. So we will now be moving to Section G on our agenda, bills on public hearing. I want to make the community and folks here aware that we do have Spanish interpretation services. Those will be provided by Ms. Sandra Obando de Ruiz, and she is available. And Ms. Ruiz, can you please speak to your services, please?
Buenas noches, voy a ser la intérprete en español para esta sesión. Estoy sentada aquí al frente si necesita mis servicios. Gracias.
Thank you. Okay. Item 1 on public hearing and on our agenda is BL 2023-60, an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County by changing from RS5 to R6 zoning for property located at 2400 Buchanan Street at the northwest corner of 24th Avenue North and Buchanan Street, and located within a contextual overlay district of 0.26 acres. Councilman Taylor, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you so much. I'd like to open a public hearing.
Okay, I declare the public hearing open. And on Councilman Taylor's bill, I am requesting a show of hands for those here in support of the bill, and a show of hands for those in opposition to the bill. Seeing neither, I declare the public hearing closed. And Councilman Taylor, we're back to you for a motion on your bill.
Thank you. Move for approval.
Okay, there is a motion for approval. Is there a second? All in favor? Any opposed? Oh, I apologize. Is there any discussion? I apologize, on Councilman Taylor's bill. Seeing none, try that vote again. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay. All right, so now we move on to item 2, as well as item 3, the companion bill, and I will read those captions. BL 2023-91, sponsor Coupon, an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, by changing from IG to SP zoning for property located at 611 Cowan Street, approximately 245 feet north of River North Boulevard and located within the River North Urban Design Overlay, 0.41 acres, to permit a hotel and retail uses, all of which is described herein, as well as item 3, BL 2023-92, which is the companion bill, is an ordinance to authorize building material restrictions and requirements for BL 2023-91, and this is proposed ordinance requires certain materials to be restricted in the construction of the buildings. Mr. Coupon, you are recognized, sir.
I believe I would like to open the public hearing.
Yes, sir. I declare the public hearing open and request a show of hands for those here in support of the bill. Okay, seeing quite a few hands there. May I also please have a show of hands for those in opposition to the bill? Seeing no opposition, do those in support of the bill wish to speak? Okay, Councilman Coupon, they are indicating no. So with that, I will declare the public hearing closed, and I am back to you for a motion on your bill.
Thank you. I'd like to move for approval, please.
Oh, I apologize. For both bills, if you would, Councilman Coupon, if you could just be clear.
I would like to move both bills together for approval, please.
Okay. Do I hear a second? Okay, Councilman Coupon has moved approval of both BL 2023-91 and BL 2023-92. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed, say no. Any abstaining? Okay. Moving now to items 4 and 5. You have passed Councilman Coupon's bills on second reading. So now we move to items 4 and 5, BL 2023-93, and its companion bill, BL 2023-94. Sponsor Parker. This is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, by changing from IR to SP for property located at 304 Oldham Street at the eastern terminus of Oldham Street, 1.78 acres, to permit a self-service storage facility, and as well in BL 2023-94, an ordinance to authorize building materials restrictions and requirements for BL 2023-93, and the proposed ordinance will require certain materials to be restricted in the construction of buildings. Councilman Parker, we're on your bills, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to open the public hearing, please.
Okay, I declare the public hearing open. I'm requesting a show of hands for those in support of these two bills. Okay, seeing many hands go up, and a show of hands for those in opposition to these bills. Seeing no opposition, do those in favor of the bill wish to speak? They are shaking their heads no, Mr. Parker. So with that, I declare the public hearing closed, and we're back to you for a motion on your bills.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to move approval.
Do I hear a second? Okay, there is a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on Councilman Parker's bills? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any say no or abstain? Okay, so you have passed those two bills on second reading. Okay. Items 6 and 7 on your agenda can also be taken together. Those are BL 2023-95 and its companion bill, BL 2023-96, sponsor Gamble. The first is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, by changing a specific plan for property located at 1420 Old Hickory Boulevard, approximately 680 feet east of the intersection of Brick Church Pike and Old Hickory Boulevard, zoned SP 3.86 acres, to permit community education and school daycare uses. And then BL 2023-96 is an ordinance to authorize building material restrictions and requirements for BL 2023-95. And this proposed ordinance requires certain materials to be restricted in the construction of the buildings. Councilwoman Gamble, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I'd like to open the public hearing.
Thank you, ma'am. I declare the public hearing open and request a show of hands of those here in support of the bill. Okay, seeing quite a few hands. And a show of hands, please, also for those in opposition to the bill. Okay, seeing none, do those in support of the bill wish to speak? Okay, they are shaking their heads no, Councilwoman Gamble. So with that, I will declare the public hearing closed, and we're back to you for a motion on these two bills, please.
Yes, I move for approval of both bills, 95 and 96.
Okay, there is a motion and a second for approval on second reading of BL 2023-95 and its companion bill BL 2023-96. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Opposed, say no. Any abstaining? Okay, you have adopted those on second reading. Moving on to items 8 and 9 on your agenda, which can also be taken together. BL 2023-97 and its companion, BL 2023-98. Sponsor Coupon. An ordinance, the first is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, by changing from MUG to SP zoning for property located at 206 North 1st Street, at the northwest corner of North 1st Street and Oldham Street, 0.80 acres, to permit a mixed-use development with non-residential uses. And for the second of the two bills, it is an ordinance to authorize building material restrictions and requirements for BL 2023-97. The proposed ordinance requires certain materials to be restricted in the construction of buildings. Mr. Coupon, I will go to you, sir, for a motion.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to open the public hearing, please.
Okay, I declare the public hearing open. Let's see, are those in support of the bill, with you please raise your hand, or the bills rather. Okay, as a show of hands as well for those in opposition to these bills. Seeing none, do those in support wish to speak? Okay, Councilman Coopin, they are shaking their heads no. So I will declare the public hearing closed and go back to you for a motion on both bills, please.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to move both bills for approval.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on these bills? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any noes, any abstentions? Okay, you have adopted these on second reading. Okay, moving on to items 10 and 11 on your agenda, which can also be taken together. BL 2023-99 and its companion BL 2023-100. Sponsor Taylor. The first is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, by changing from R6 to SP for property located on Clarksville Pike unnumbered, approximately 600 feet northwest of Rosa L. Parks Boulevard, 12.99 acres, to permit 590 multifamily residential units. And for the second bill, this is an ordinance to authorize building material restrictions and requirements for BL 2023-99. The proposed ordinance requires certain materials to be restricted in the construction of the buildings. Councilman Taylor, go to you, sir.
Thank you. I'd like to move for an indefinite deferral.
Okay. Councilman Taylor has moved for an indefinite deferral, and that is a deferral by rule. We don't vote. We move on. Thank you. Okay, so that is for both of those bills then, Mr. Taylor. So BL 2023-99 and BL 2023-100 have been indefinitely deferred. Okay, moving now to items 12 and 13 on your agenda, which can be taken together. BL 2023-101 and its companion, BL 2023-102, sponsor Harrell. An ordinance, the first is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, by changing from AR2A to SP zoning for properties located at 4057 Maxwell Road and Maxwell Road unnumbered, approximately 760 feet west of Laverne Couchville Pike, 20.88 acres, to permit 70 single-family units, all of which is described therein, and as well an ordinance to authorize building material restrictions and requirements for BL 2023-101. The proposed ordinance requires certain materials to be restricted in the construction of the buildings. Councilman Harrell, you are recognized, sir.
Madam Chair, I would like to open public hearing.
I declare the public hearing open and request a show of hands for those who are here in support of the bill. And a show of hands also for those in opposition to the bills. Seeing no opposition, do those in favor wish to speak? Okay, Councilman Harrell, they are indicating that they do not. So with that, I will declare the public hearing closed. And it's back to you for a motion on your bill, please.
I'll move to approve as amended with the SP.
Okay, you have an amendment, sir. So would you like to move, let's see. Okay, you need to move the amendment first, please.
Well, I'd like to move the amendment as approved.
Okay, and can you just provide a brief discussion what the amendment does?
Okay, so to preserve the feel, the looks of the community, we, based on the renderings that were provided, we asked that they put that SP in place because the verbiage that was in the actual bill stated that they can do more than the requirement, and we wanted to maintain the maximum height of the structures.
Okay, so Mr. Harrell has moved his amendment, and it has been seconded, and he has given a brief explanation. Is there any discussion on this amendment? Okay, seeing none, we'll vote in all in favor of the amendment. Please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, so Mr. Harrell, now you will be moving your bill as amended.
I move to approve the bill as amended.
Okay, properly moved and properly seconded. There is an amendment on BL 2023-101. That bill has been amended. We are also taking it with the companion bill 2023-102 for a singular vote. Properly moved, properly seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Any noes? Any abstentions? Okay. You have adopted that on second reading. Thank you,
Madam Chair.
Councilman Harrell. Okay. Moving on to items 14 and 15, which can also be taken together. BL 2023-105 and its companion, BL 2023-106, sponsor Coupon. The first bill is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, by changing from R6A to SP zoning for properties located at 909 and 917 Cheatham Place, at the southeastern corner of Cheatham Place and 10th Avenue North, 0.38 acres, to permit 8 multifamily residential units, and its companion ordinance to authorize BL 2023-106 to authorize building material restrictions and requirements for BL 2023-105. The proposed ordinance requires certain materials to be restricted in the construction of the buildings. Councilman Coupon, it's to you, sir, for a motion.
Thank you, Madam President. This feels very familiar. I would like to open the public hearing, please.
Okay. I declare the public hearing open and request a show of hands for those in support of the bills. And a show of hands as well for those in opposition to the bill. Okay, seeing none on either side, I declare the public hearing closed, and it's back to you, Councilman Coupon, for a motion on both these bills.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to move both bills for approval.
Okay, do I hear a second? Okay, Councilman Coupon has moved BL 2023-105 and 106 for approval, properly seconded. Is there any discussion on either of these bills? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any noes or abstentions? Okay. You adopt BL 2023-105 and 106 on second reading. The second of 3 readings. Okay, moving on to agenda items 16 and 17, which can also be taken together. BL 2023-107 and its companion, BL 2023-108, sponsor Kimbrough. The first is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, to request to rezone from RS15 to SP zoning for properties located at 4315, 4317, 4321 Cato Road, approximately 70 feet west of Eaton's Creek Road, 12.76 acres, to permit two-family residential units and 1 single-family residential unit for a total of 5 units requested by 5001 Properties LLC. And then as well, an ordinance, its companion bill to authorize building material restrictions requirements for BL 2023-107. The proposed ordinance requires certain materials to be restricted in the construction of buildings. Councilwoman Kimbrough, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to open the public hearing.
Okay, I declare the public hearing open and request a show of hands for those here in support of the bill. Thank you. And a show of hands as well for those in opposition to the bills. Seeing none, do those in support wish to speak? They are shaking their heads no, Councilwoman Kimbrough. So with that, I will declare the public hearing closed. And it is back to you for a motion on both these bills, please, ma'am.
Thank you. I'd like to move for approval on both bills.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, there is a motion for approval properly seconded for BL 2023-107 and 108, which can be taken together. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any noes, any abstentions? Okay, you have adopted these two bills on second reading, second of three readings. Okay, we're moving to our last two items on second reading and public hearing. It is item 18, BL 2023-109, sponsor Welsh, is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, by changing from RS 7.5 to R8A zoning for property located at 209 Chilton Street, approximately 175 feet west of Waller Street, 0.27 acres, all of which is described herein. Councilwoman Welsh, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to open the public hearing.
Okay. I declare the public hearing open and request a show of hands for those in support of the bills. Okay. And a show of hands, please, for those in opposition to the bill. Seeing none, does the gentleman in support wish to speak? Okay, he is shaking his head no. And so with that, I will declare the public hearing closed and go back to you, Councilwoman Welsh, for a motion.
Move to approve.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, Councilwoman Welsh has moved approval on second reading of BL 2023-109. Is there, it's properly seconded. Isn't there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay. We're moving to our last item on public hearing. It is agenda item 19, BL 2023-110, sponsor Parker. It's an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, by changing from SP to MULA zoning for properties located at 2631 and 2635 Gallatin Avenue at the southwest corner of Gallatin Pike and Carolyn Avenue, 0.19 acres, and located within the Gallatin Pike Urban Design Overlay, all of which is described herein. Councilman Parker, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I would like to move to defer both the public hearing and the legislation to the first meeting in February.
Do I hear a second? Okay, Councilman Parker has moved to defer BL 2023-110 to the meeting of February 16th, February 6th, correct? February 6th.
Thank you.
Thank you. For a public hearing at that time. It's properly moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion about this deferral? Okay, seeing none. All in favor of the deferral to February 6th, please say aye.
Aye.
Any voting no, any abstaining? Okay, this is deferred to the February 6th public hearing. Okay. All right, we are moving to item H on our agenda. This is a consolidated consent agenda. This is the first time, council members, that we will endeavor to consolidate resolutions and second and third reading ordinances. And so let me just read to you how this will go. Okay. All right. Okay. So all resolutions and second and third reading ordinances on this agenda are included on the consent agenda if recommended for approval unanimously by all committees to which the item was referred. Items on the consent agenda will be voted on at a single time. The agenda item number, along with the resolution and ordinance number of the items on the consent agenda, will be read aloud by me. Members of the council may remove any item from the consent agenda by request before the consent agenda vote is taken. So we will move through the entirety of the consent agenda, both resolutions, second reading ordinances, and third reading ordinances. And then at the end of that, members will please raise their hands to remove any items on either of those or those various readings. And when doing so, please provide both the agenda and the bill number. Okay? All right. So consent agenda resolutions are agenda item 20, which is resolution RS 2023-125. Members and the public will see the caption of the bill projected on our screens in both the gallery and internal to the chamber, and those viewing at home and online will see the same. So I will read a little bit more slowly and deliberately so that there is time for everyone to see and acknowledge the caption. Okay? And then item number 21, resolution RS 2023-126. Agenda item 22, resolution RS 2023-127. Agenda, yes, Councilwoman Hancock has just had a point of inquiry. We are waiting till the end of all the readings to remove from consent, okay? We were on item 22. Okay, so agenda item 23, resolution RS 2023-128. Agenda item 24, resolution RS 2023-129. Okay, we're going to keep proceeding. Okay, items on second reading that are also on the consent agenda is agenda item number 43, ordinance BL 2023-112. Agenda item 45, ordinance BL 2023-114. Agenda item 46, ordinance BL 2023-115. Okay. Moving into third reading ordinances that are also on the consolidated consent agenda. Agenda item 47, ordinance BL 2023-78. Agenda item 49, ordinance BL 2023-82. Agenda item 50, ordinance BL 2023-83. Agenda item 51, ordinance BL 2023-84. Agenda item 52, ordinance BL 2023-85. Agenda item 53, ordinance BL 2023-86. Agenda item 54, ordinance BL 2023-87. Agenda item 55, ordinance BL 2023-88. Agenda item 56, ordinance BL 2023-89. Agenda item 57, ordinance BL 2023-90. And lastly, agenda item 58, ordinance BL 2023-111. This concludes the reading of the consolidated consent agenda of resolutions, second reading ordinances, and third reading ordinances. Are any members seeking to be recognized to remove items from this consolidated consent agenda? Councilman Eastlick, you are recognized.
I ask for 22 to be removed.
Okay. So agenda item 22, resolution 2023-127. Okay. That will be removed from consent. Okay, are any other members seeking to be recognized to remove an item from the consolidated consent agenda? Okay. With that, I will now ask committee chairs for committee reports for the items on the consolidated consent agenda. Okay. It's the first time, Ms. Porterfield. I got to figure out how we're going to do this. So give me just 1 minute, Ms. Porterfield. Okay. Okay. Okay, colleagues. So when I call on committee chairs, oh, pardon me. Yes, sir. Do you have a point of order?
What, Madam Chair, was number 39 on that consent? No. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, sir, it is not. Okay. So committee chairs, I will be asking you for reports on both resolutions and second reading ordinances on consent. Okay, with that, Chair Porterfield, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance considered RS 2023-125 as well as RS 2023-126. Both passed 13 in favor, 0 against, and 0 abstentions. I believe that was all on the consent from budget. Which one?
Let's see, you have a second reading consent item, which is BL 2023-112, which was agenda item 43.
That also passed 13 in favor, 0 against, and 0 abstaining.
Okay, thank you, Chair Porterfield. Okay, let's see. I'm going to go next to Public Safety, Public Health and Safety Chair Evans for your committee report on, let's see, RS 2023-125, please.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. We voted to approve, 10 in favor, 0 against, no abstentions.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Rules, confirmations, and public elections. Chair Sepulveda, please.
For RS 2023-127, and 128 and 129, we voted 5 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay. And just to make a note, RS 2023-127 has in fact been removed from consent. Okay. Let's see. So next then, I will go to Planning and Zoning Committee Chair, Ms. Gamble, for your committee report, please, ma'am, on the second reading consent agenda items.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. The Planning and Zoning Committee considered BL 2023-112, 114, and 115 on consent. All were recommended for approval, 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Thank you, Chair Gamble. And lastly, Transportation and Infrastructure Committee Chair Parker, for your two second reading bills that are on consent, please, sir. Whoops, there you go.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Transportation and Infrastructure considered BL 2023-114, recommended approval, 9 in favor, 0 against. We considered 2023-115, recommended approval, 9 in favor, 0 against. And with all committee reports in, I will move the consent agenda.
Thank you. Do I hear a second? Is there any discussion about the consolidated consent agenda items, resolutions, second reading, and third. Okay, Councilman Parker has moved the consent agenda, properly seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any no? Any abstaining? Okay, you have adopted the consent agenda. Okay, now we will return to items that were not on consent in agenda order, moving from resolutions to second reading to third. And then we will go to first reading subsequent to that. No? Okay, we are going to follow the agenda. Thank you. All right, that sounds logical. First time to do this. So now we're back in our regular order. We have moved the consolidated consent agenda, and now we will go back to resolutions that were not on consent. Then we'll have a late resolution, and then we will be on bills on introduction and first reading. So now back on resolutions not on consent. We have agenda item 22, RS 2023-127. This is sponsors Cap, Hill, Welsh, Nash, Weiner, Gregg, Vo, Evans, Swara, Ellis, Ewing, Gadd, Huffman, Benedict, Stiles, Porterfield, Cash, Taylor, Allen, Horton, Bradford, and Coupin. This is a resolution urging the Tennessee General Assembly to continue acceptance of federal funding for public schools in Tennessee. Councilman Cap, you are recognized on your resolution, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Chair Sepulveda, I believe, provided it earlier with the consent agenda, but do we need to take it separately for report purposes? Okay. Ms. Sepulveda provided that report earlier, and we have that duly noted in the record. So with that, back to you for a motion.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Just briefly, I know colleagues, I move passage of the resolution.
Move approval of the resolution. Is there a second? Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you all who've signed on to co-sponsor this. I know you all have read it, and thank you for your co-sponsorship. And consequently, I'll be brief. Nashvillians pay federal taxes in common with all citizens of the United States. The federal government returns billions of dollars of those federal taxes to Tennessee to fund public education. As you're all aware, the General Assembly impaneled a joint task force for the purpose of studying whether to defund our schools by rejecting that federal funding to the tune of about a couple $2 billion every single year. Federal funding for education particularly supports free and reduced price school lunches, children with disabilities, children from lower income families, in addition to providing essential support for the public school system as a whole. There is nothing more important that we do as a city or as a society, in my view, than educate our children. And as ourselves funders of the Metro Nashville public school system, it's appropriate for us to ask the General Assembly to continue receiving the federal money, both for the sake of Tennessee children, Nashville's children, and Nashville's taxpayers, so that our federal tax money is not going to other states, which is what would happen if we didn't take our own money back. So with that, I ask you to vote in favor of this, and I'll reserve the rest of my time if anybody has any question.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Cap. This has been moved and properly seconded with an explanation from Councilman Cap, and so we are now on discussion. And I see members in the queue seeking to be recognized. And so with that, Councilwoman Swara, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I will not say a lot, but I wanted to thank my colleague for bringing this resolution. It's very much needed. Education is very vital, and we cannot have good education without the funding. Every time we have money cut from our budget, we're having to make things up. My dad used to say, your education is the one thing that is yours that nobody can take away from you. And as somebody who went to school in Africa, I can attest to that being very true. So we owe it to our schools, to MMPS, to our children, to give them the best education that we can. And funding is critical to that. And so I want to join my colleague in imploring the state to reconsider this, because I don't see why we want to leave money on the table that could make changes in the lives of our children and funding for our schools. So with that, I support this. I'm a co-sponsor, and I hope everybody will vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Suara. Councilman Prep T, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. As a product of a Tennessee public school education, as a child of free and reduced lunch, I rise in favor of this resolution. It is my firm belief that public education is one of the greatest equalizers within our society. It is one of the most basic responsibilities of a state and local government to ensure that we have an educated population. It is a rising tide that I believe truly lifts all boats. So I rise in favor of this resolution. I thank my colleague from District 6 for bringing this resolution, and I implore all of you to vote in favor.
Councilman Huffman, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise in support of this as well. Thank you to my colleague, Councilmember Cap, for bringing this before this body. I'm a proud co-sponsor of this. I'm also a proud recipient of a public education. Both my parents were public school teachers. And the one thing that I want this body and everybody listening to this to hear is that this doesn't just affect this city. This affects rural Tennesseans too. Greene County, Tennessee, where I come from, they're going to be hit with this just as hard. And it's not the kids that you wouldn't think either. It's the kids that are underprivileged and underdeserved. So thank you, sir, for bringing this, and I think it's a great resolution.
Councilwoman Sepulveda, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'll be very brief because a lot of what has been said, I resonate with, being a product of MMPS schools and being the aunt of a special needs nephew. I know that money like this is very important to us. This is a non-binding resolution. This is us asking the General Assembly to not take this away from our families in need. But I would also encourage the general public to reach out to your state representatives and your state senators to implore them to accept this funding, because it is absolutely critical and needed. As someone who had to share textbooks in our public schools, we cannot afford to go back. And with that, I would encourage all of us to vote in favor.
Thank you, Councilwoman Sepulveda. Councilman Eastlick, you are recognized.
Thank you. And I'm not against this resolution, but I believe our state leaders were elected and are going to make a good decision on this. I, too, am a product of the Nashville public schools and also received help as far as getting lunch fed for myself. But I also think that the people at the state level have the information and have been given this duty to make this choice, and I stand with them.
Okay, seeing no one else seeking to be recognized for discussion, we will try this first as a voice vote. All in favor, please say aye. Any noes? Any abstentions? Mr. Eastlick, are you seeking to be recognized for an abstention? Okay. Mr. Clerk, if you will please recognize Councilman Eastlick's abstention. Okay, and so colleagues, you then adopt Resolution 2023-127. All right, moving on now to Section J of our agenda. Item J1 is a late resolution. And let's see. We will need to have a suspension of the rules. And so for the late filed nature. And I guess Chair Sepulveda, if you could please speak to that. This is Councilman Coupin's late filed resolution regarding the downtown partnership agreement regarding parking garages. You're recognized.
Thank you. I think Councilmember Coupin needs to move to suspend the rules.
Okay, I apologize. If you would please, thank you. If you would please first move to suspend the rules, sir. Up. Almost, we're getting
Almost
there. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to move to suspend the rules.
Councilman Coupin has moved to suspend the rules. Is there any objection to the suspension of the rules? Seeing none, I will go to okay. All right. So Councilman Coupin has requested a suspension of the rules. Now, in that order, we will go to Councilwoman Sepulveda for a report on the late nature and the suspension of the rules. You're recognized, Chair.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Rules heard and considered, and we voted 5 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting in favor of suspension of the rules.
Okay. With the committee approving that, then do I inquire as well again? Okay, are there any objections to the suspension of the rules? Seeing none, the rules are suspended. Okay. Councilman Coupin, we now go to you, sir, for a motion on your late filed resolution.
I would like to move. Thank you.
I'm sorry, sir. Committee reports.
Committee reports, please, Madam Chair.
We're just getting all out of order on this one, but that's okay. Councilwoman Porterfield, you are recognized for the report of the Budget and Finance Committee, please, ma'am.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance considered this and voted 13 in favor, 0 against, and 0 abstaining.
Okay. Councilman Parker, you are recognized for the report of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee.
Thank you. We considered the late filed resolution, recommended approval, 9 in favor and 0 against.
Okay, thank you, Chair Parker. Now, Councilman Coupin, with all committee reports in, I am back to you for a motion on your resolution. Go ahead.
It's okay. We've got extra time thanks to the condensed consent agenda.
Yeah.
I would like to move approval with a brief comment, please.
Okay, properly moved, properly seconded. Back to you, sir, for an explanation.
Thank you, Madam President. And I want to acknowledge to the body, I know that we have expressed frustration at late filed bills and resolutions and expenditures and things like that. And I think this is an important statement to make to push back on how we work as a body. That being said, I don't think this is the place to push back. Not that I'm biased, but this is a resolution that works with the Downtown Partnership and Metro Nashville to amend a contract that had been in place for over 22 years. It is a management contract for the Courthouse garage where you are currently today, and the library garage as well. It extends that agreement 7 years, and then it also changes the nature of the surplus money splitting. Previously, Metro kept 50%, and then the Downtown Partnership kept 50% and could use it in perpetuity. Now that 50% that goes to the Downtown Partnership, if not spent, goes back to Metro. So this is a better deal for Metro. It's a contract that's been in place for a long period of time. It does expire Thursday, therefore the late filed nature of it. It went through traffic and parking on time, got kind of tied up, maybe we think, in the Thanksgiving holiday, and that's kind of how it became late filed here. So I would ask my colleagues to support this resolution. Thanks so much.
Okay, there is a motion properly seconded and an explanation from Councilman Coupin. Is there any discussion? Yes, a point of parliamentary inquiry. Ms. Suara, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. The late file resolution is resolution J-. Is it J for Jacob? So if it's me, it will be Z.
Okay, seeing no further discussion, properly moved and properly seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Any noes? Any abstaining? Okay, you have adopted Councilman Coopin's resolution. All right. Now, moving in the order of our agenda, we are on bills on introduction and first reading. Is anyone seeking to remove an item from introduction, first reading? Because otherwise we can take them together. Councilman Harrell, you are recognized, sir.
Yeah, so we have a bill of, I think, number 39, BL 23, 133.
Yes, sir.
So I appreciate Councilmember Styles' efforts in this. However, I want to move it under pursuant 9-2. I would like to have an opportunity to bring this to my community prior to us moving forward. So I would ask for a 1 meeting deferral.
Okay. So Councilman Harrell, pursuant to Rule 9.2, regarding a zoning bill that is internal to his district, but with a district sponsor that is different than himself, by Rule 9.2, can request a 1 meeting deferral of that legislation, and no vote is required. So noted. That is by rule. Is anyone else seeking to be recognized to remove an item? Yes, sir. From introduction and first reading.
Madam President, I'd like to remove 38, BL 2023-132.
Okay. Do you want to make, do you want to defer indefinitely?
I would like to defer indefinitely.
Okay. And I guess we just do that by rule? Do we need to take a vote on that? Let's check, Councilman Eastlake, if we need to take a separate vote on that, or if we can just.
Could I withdraw that?
Okay. You might want to defer indefinitely rather. There's a little bit of a difference. So let's just take this and we will remove it from first reading. Will we do consolidated first and then come back to this one? Okay. So Councilman Eastlick, we'll come back to you after we vote on all the other items. Is anyone else seeking to remove an item from bills on introduction and first reading? Councilwoman Johnson, your hands are kind of moving around, or okay. Just want to make sure. All right. Seeing no one else requesting to speak or to remove an item on first reading, without objection, we will take all these together at one time with the exception of items 38 and 39. All in favor, please say aye. Okay. You adopt the items on. Okay, I'm sorry. Are there any opposed? Are there any abstaining? Okay. You have adopted the bills on introduction and first reading, and now we will go back to item 38, sponsor Eastlick, and you are recognized, Councilman, for a motion to defer indefinitely on your bill.
Thank you, Madam President. I make a motion to defer indefinitely.
Okay. This is. And properly seconded. Okay, this is BL 2023-132. It's an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws and Zoning Ordinance, the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, by changing from CS to MUNANS zoning for property located at 99 Bridgeway Avenue, south of Bridgeway Avenue, and East Rayon Drive, 0.46 acres. There is a motion to defer indefinitely, properly seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Any noes? Any abstaining? Okay. BL 2023, Councilman Eastlick, 132 is deferred indefinitely. Okay. Item 39 has been taken care of and does not require a vote. So now we are moving back to second reading for items that were not on consent. Okay, we are in section L, bills on second reading. The first item before us that was not on the consent agenda is item number 42, ordinance BL 2023-70. This is an ordinance to amend section 13.08.040 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws related to the offering of merchandise for sale on or near public property. Councilman Coupin, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. I believe I would like committee reports.
Correct, you would. Well done, sir. Okay.
About time.
Let's see. You're fine, sir. Go ahead, Councilman Parker. You're ready. You can provide your committee report, please. Oh, sorry. See, I clicked Aaron's button. Go ahead.
We went out of alphabetical order.
No worries.
There. So Transportation and Infrastructure considered BL 2023-70 as amended and recommended 9 in favor, 0 against for approval.
Okay, so as I understand it, your committee supported the amendment and supported the bill as amended.
That's my understanding, yes.
Correct. Okay. I'm seeing a nod from Vice Chair there. Okay. And Councilwoman Evans, Chair of Public Health and Safety Committee. Do you have a report, please, ma'am?
Yes. Hang on just a second. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
And it's a good one.
It's a great report. On the bill as amended, we voted 10 in favor, 0 against with no abstentions.
Okay, thank you for that report. Okay, back to you, Councilman Coupin, for a motion. First the bill and then the amendment? Okay. I just turned your mic off as I turn it on, as I do. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, and thank you, Councilwoman Evans Siegel, for the prop to remind me what we are all doing here today. And I would like to move the bill for approval.
Okay, the bill is moved for approval. Is there a second? Okay, moved approval, properly seconded. And so now you're back on your bill to move your amendment. Okay, sir.
I would like to now move my amendment, please.
Okay, can you provide a brief explanation to the body and the public on what that amendment does?
Yes, Madam President, I can. The amendment clarifies some of the questions and concerns that were brought forward. It eliminates the word services from the initial bill, and it also clarifies public property and public right-of-way being affected by this bill. So it clarifies all the issues that were brought up, and hopefully it is good to go. And I would ask my colleagues to support it.
Okay, all in favor of, is there any discussion on the amendment? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, Councilman Coupin, so now it's back to you for a motion on your bill as amended because your amendment has now been adopted.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to move the bill as amended.
Is there a second? Okay. All right. The bill is amended, has been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion on Councilman Coupin's bill as amended? Okay. Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Any voting no? Any abstaining? Okay, you have passed BL 2023-70 as amended on second reading. Okay, moving on to agenda item 44. This is ordinance BL 2023-113, Porterfield, Evans, Johnston, and Huffman. This is an ordinance approving amendment number 1 to contract number 6488663 between the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County and Axon Enterprises, Inc. to add an optional renewal term of up to 120 months and to increase the value of the contract. Councilwoman Porterfield, I'm going to go to you for committee reports, please, ma'am.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance considered the substitute and approved the substitute 13 in favor, 0 against, and 0 abstaining. Budget and Finance also considered this legislation as substituted and voted 9 in favor, 4 against, 0 abstaining.
Okay. Okay. All righty. And I'm going to go now to Councilwoman Evans, Chair of Public Health and Safety, for her report, please.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. The substitute by Councilmember Toombs, we recommended approval, 11 in favor, 0 against, with 2 abstentions. The late filed amendment from Porterfield, we recommended approval, 12 in favor, 0 or 1 against, 0 abstentions. And then the bill is substituted and amended. We recommended disapproval, 3 in favor, 8 against, 1 not voting.
Okay. All righty, just let me make a note of all that. Okay. So, Ms. Porterfield, you have heard the reports of the 2 committees. And so it is back to you on your bill for a motion.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. There is a substitute, so should we kick this over to the sponsor of the substitute to move their substitute?
We can, if she would like to, or describe, give a brief explanation. I also understand perhaps that you have signed on to the substitute.
I have a late filed amendment. I have not signed on to the substitute.
Okay,
I have a late filed
I appreciate the clarification. Okay, all right. Special Counsel Darby has reminded me that we're going to make a motion first to approve the bill for purposes of general discussion, and then, colleagues, there will be the opportunity for substitution, amendment, discussion on substitution, discussion on amending, okay? So back to you, Ms. Porterfield, for a motion on the current bill, please.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I move for approval for the purposes of discussion.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, properly moved and seconded. You were inquiring as to the substitute. Do you now want to support the substitute? And we'll go to the substitute sponsor. Okay, Ms. Toombs, as lead sponsor of the proposed substitute, you are recognized for a motion and a description, please.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Move for approval of the substitute.
Okay, so the substitute is before us, properly seconded. If you could briefly describe it to colleagues before we pursue discussion on the substitute.
Yes, to track the effectiveness of the new tasers, the substitute adds some data points that are not currently included in what MMPD already reports. So it requires a quarterly report regarding the use of tasers. The report shall include the number of taser deployments, average number of taser cartridges used per incident, the number of times a firearm was used by MMPD officers in addition to a taser deployment, and a summary of incidents where an individual subject to the taser deployment suffered an injury directly related to the taser deployment.
Okay. All right, so you, there is a motion properly seconded along with a explanation of the friendly substitute by Councilwoman Toombs to Councilwoman Porterfield's bill. Is there any discussion on the motion to substitute specifically, or the substitute? I see several folks in the queue. I'm going to just look at them. Ms. Johnston, Mr. Nash, do you seek to be recognized on the substitute? Okay. Ms. Evans-Siegel, do you seek to be recognized on the substitute? Okay. Mr. Clerk, is there anyone else? Okay, there's quite a few people in the queue. Okay, I guess what I would say, given the depth of the queue, Mr. Druffel, Ms. Suara, Ms. Sepulveda, Ms. Vo, Mr. Rutherford, Ms. Weiner, are any among you seeking to speak on the substitute? Oh, okay. Thank you, Ms. Porterfield. So you are recognized to speak specifically on the substitute. Oh, pardon me. Go ahead.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I just wanted to let my colleagues know that I did have a conversation with Chief Drake as well as Deputy Chief Gilder. And in this conversation, they were supportive of both Councilwoman Toombs' substitute as well as my late file amendment that we will be hopefully considering next. They did say that they were fine with the transparency nature of it. So I just wanted to make sure that our colleagues had that information.
Okay, I appreciate that. With that explanation and a substitute moved and properly seconded and supported by the initial sponsor, and seeing no one else seeking discussion or comment on the substitute, we will move to a vote on the substitute. All in favor, please say aye. Any voting no? Any abstaining? Okay. Now we are on the bill as substituted. Now, by Rule 41.4, that bill has now become your bill, Councilwoman Toombs, okay? And so at this juncture, we have before us BL 2023-113 as substituted, and I will go to Councilwoman Toombs for our next step.
Would that be considering the late filed?
I presume so. Yes, ma'am, if that's something that you are wanting to advance. Yes.
I'd like to suspend the rules.
Okay, there's a motion to suspend the rules. I will go to Chair Sepulveda.
Rules considered the late filed nature. We voted to approve, 4 in favor, 0 against, 1 not voting.
Okay, you have heard the committee report on the suspension of the rules. Are there any objections to the suspension of the rules for the late filed amendment? Okay, seeing none, the rules are suspended, and it is back to you, Councilwoman Toombs.
And Madam Vice Mayor, may I defer to Councilwoman Porterfield for an explanation of the amendment?
Indeed, you may defer your time to her. Ms. Porterfield, on your late filed amendment for which the rules have been suspended, to explain your amendment, please, ma'am.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you, Councilwoman Toombs, and thank you, colleagues, for allowing me to bring this amendment to you all. This is a simple amendment. It's about transparency. In addition to the quarterly reporting that Councilwoman Toombs has brought forth, it's also asking that we get demographic information for individuals that have been subjected to taser deployment, including age, gender, and ethnicity, the age of the individual subject to a taser deployment who are under 18 years old, and the de-escalation tactics used prior to the taser deployment. If you go to the MMPD dashboard, they have a robust data on use of force as well as the use of tasers. And when I dug into that data, what I saw was that tasers had been used 44 times this year. And of those 44 times, there were 15 individuals that had a taser deployed on them that were white. There were 28 individuals that had a taser deployed on them that were Black. So Black people, a taser was used on Black people, I almost said twice as much as a taser was used on white people here in Nashville. Seeing how Black people make up about 28% of the population here in Nashville, I think that's very problematic. So it's important that we are getting this data so that we can review it. I also saw that taser was used on children 6 times. Of those 6 children that were tased, 2 of which were white, 4 of which were Black. We don't know how old those children are. It just says that it was used on an individual under the age of 18 years old. It's a huge difference in using a taser on a 6-year-old and a 17-year-old. So, hopefully, the tasers, well, hopefully tasers aren't being used on anyone under 18. But I do understand that officers aren't going to stop in the midst of a tense situation and ask someone how old they are before they deploy a taser. But I do think that for transparency purposes, it is important that we know the ages of the children that are having tasers used on them. And then lastly is asking that they share the de-escalation tactics that are being used prior to deploying a taser. Again, Chief Drake, Deputy Chief Gilder were both supportive of this. They appreciated the transparency. I believe our community and our constituents will also appreciate the transparency. So with that, I would ask my colleagues to please support this. And I would also like to remind people that you can support an amendment, even if you don't support the bill as substituted, you can still support this amendment for transparency, and then you'll have an opportunity to vote on the bill.
Okay, so Ms. Toombs has deferred her time to Ms. Porterfield to describe the amendment. And now, Ms. Toombs, it is back to you for a motion on the amendment that Ms. Porterfield has just described.
Move for approval.
Is there a second? Okay, the amendment to the substituted bill has been moved and properly seconded. You've heard a description of that amendment. Is there anyone in the queue that is seeking to be recognized to speak specifically on the amendment? Okay. So with that, properly moved, properly seconded, seeing no additional discussion on the amendment specifically, all in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Aye. Any voting no? Any abstaining? Okay, seeing none. So Ms. Toombs, we are back to you now for a motion on your substitute bill as amended.
Move for approval.
Is there a second? Okay. There is a motion and a second for BL 2023-113 as substituted and amended. Now we are on discussion. And so I will go to the queue, to the top of the queue, and acknowledge Councilwoman Courtney Johnston.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So I know that there's a lot of frustration in this room about how this has come about. And I just wanted to give a brief history because the previous term dealt with this when we purchased new tasers in January of 2022. We purchased those tasers because the tasers that we had were completely outdated. They were failing. They were not supported anymore from a service or maintenance perspective or software perspective from the company because they were so outdated. So we were in a situation where we had to replace that equipment. Shortly thereafter, they came out with the 10 model, which I understand is frustrating, but we didn't have a choice in 2022. So here we are using in 2023 a 2018 model with a new model that has come out. So we need more tasers because we have more officers. So the situation is, well, do you want the old taser or do you want the new taser? Well, clearly we would want the new updated technology, which, by the way, is very, very different from an iPhone 10 versus an iPhone 8 description. It's light years. I hope everyone had the chance to hear from Deputy Chief Gilder about the difference in the 10 and the 8. It's a huge difference. Or 7, whatever number we're on, 7. So I think, we're getting more. We're getting more tasers. We're extending the contract for 10 years, which is doubling the contract. So that's a huge number. But what we're also doing is we're locking in 2023 prices. I know there's frustration that the company is not letting us defer out or go out past January. To be quite frank with everyone, they don't need to. They're the only game in the country or the world. And so they've got huge demand for this technology because it is so superior to what's out there now. And so there's no reason to honor 2023 pricing in 2024. The other frustration that I have, and that I know that a lot of my colleagues, especially our second termers, understand is that a lot of times procurement takes a really long time. This situation started back in the third quarter of 2023. So this isn't something that just got sprung up on us, in December of 2023. This has been being contemplated for several months. And so I get that frustration. I think that's something that we need to look at from a procurement perspective, why a sole source contract would take so long, thereby putting us up against a brick wall of December 31st for 2023 pricing. The reality is that if we defer this or if we vote no on this, who gets punished are the taxpayers, because the only thing that's going to happen is that they're going to have to come back to us and they're going to demand more money. So that's what happens. This is necessary technology that MNPD uses, and it's just going to cost us more money. So I hope that you vote in favor.
Mr. Nash, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. A couple of issues. Mr. Ryder spoke of deaths from tasers. I know of no deaths that have occurred in Nashville since we had them in 2008. Every police officer that gets trained on a taser has to get tased, and we haven't lost a police officer. So I think that was just a mistaken premise on Mr. Ryder's part. Secondly, and Council Lady Johnston touched on it, this is extremely different technology. This is the difference between a one-shot Derringer and a 10-shot automatic. And why does that make a difference? You know, we're very lucky here. Most of us never have to face an armed person, somebody who is on drugs, maybe ready to do some violence. People really, we don't understand that because we live in a peaceful world for the most part. But officers, occasionally, it's not a routine job. We had the officers that attended Coventry, and we talked about what the champions of heroes they were. We had an officer that was shot chasing somebody who was burglarizing cars at a park and ride in Donaldson. These things happen. And our officers deserve the best equipment they can have to face that and not have to use deadly force. These new tasers are the difference between a typewriter and a word processor. Our officers deserve to have that to protect the public and themselves. And I hope we can, you'll agree and vote for these new tools.
Thank you, Councilman Nash. Councilwoman Porterfield, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Colleagues, less than 1 year and 10 months ago, we entered into a 5-year contract for tasers that have a 5-year lifespan for 1,400 tasers for a total of $6.5 million. Today, we have MNPD requesting more, newer, and better tasers with a hefty price tag of $18.3 million. And while I appreciate their desire to have better technology, it is fiscally irresponsible for us to abandon our working tasers that still have at least another 3 years on their lifespan for new tasers at almost 3 times the cost. In my conversations with finance, I was advised that going forward, there will be an increase of $1.2 million starting in fiscal year 25 for additional funding for the life of this contract. So each year, MNPD is going to access for an extra $1.2 million for the life of this contract for these tasers. In addition to my concerns about the financial impact and the wasteful nature of replacing tasers 22 months into a 60-month contract, I take issue with the fact that we're even considering replacing these tasers. Teachers don't get new computers every 2 years. Students don't get new textbooks every 2 years. And 2 years ago, fire trucks in my district were being held together by duct tape, and they definitely don't get fire trucks every 2 years. MNPD is the only department that we have refused to say no to, and we treat them as they have unfettered access to the coffers. We tell parks no, we tell schools no, we tell fire no, we tell Metro Action Commission no, we tell the Arts and Animal Control no, and we tell Metro employees no all of the time. In my conversations with Axon, I was advised that they started working on this contract in April of 2023. When I asked why it was just not being brought to us and we don't have time for a deferral, they said they didn't want to bring it before the council the last term. Guess what? That's not our problem if they waited to the last minute to bring this to us. Also, in reviewing this legislation when it was passed in 2022, there were assurances from the vendor that community engagement was part of the contract. They volunteered to appear, offer taser demonstrations, and appear before the Community Oversight Board and other entities. That did not happen. And lastly, I'm going to tell you, the arguments that you are going to hear tonight is about how better this technology is. The biggest issues we are getting both of the probes in the biggest issues are getting both of the probes in the right place and getting the probes to penetrate. Both of those issues are addressed by this new model of taser. You got to get a good spread to get good immobilization on the subject and penetration aspect. These tasers have improved on that as well. If the probes don't penetrate properly, if they don't stick, then you don't get good immobilization, and it's really not effective. That's one of the major reasons we're looking to move to this upgraded model because of those two reasons. That was from Chief Gilder in the Budget and Finance Committee meeting, not yesterday, but January 3rd, 2022. So the exact same arguments that you heard yesterday and the exact arguments that you're hearing right now about why we have to have this new technology are the same arguments that we just heard in 2022. And there is no guarantee that if you pass this, that they won't be back in another 6 months saying that this technology is now antiquated and they need more.
Thank you, Councilwoman Porterfield. Councilwoman Evans Siegel, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I will adopt my colleague's moniker. Forgive me, I'm a visual person, which is why I asked the same question over and over of this very kind table, and apologies to those who can't see this, but we have about 38 months left in the original contract. It runs in February 2027, so starting in January, that leaves us 38 months. For 1,400 users, we average currently over the course of 5 years, $77.38 per month per user. The new contract would put us over 120 months, because you got to do the math different, $124.67 per user per month. That's an increase of $47.29 per user per month. Same thing. Over the 38 months left, that is an increase of $77,933.22 per month, which is, in case you want to know the math, because I've done it, $935,207 per year. Let's stick with the same colors. Or over 38 months, $2,961,488.96 for 36 months for new tasers. We shot those tasers a little over 70 times in 2022. If we're shooting it the same number of times we shot it in 2022, that comes out to a delightful number of $12,339.54 extra per time we use the taser over the life of the contract. I have kids, so this time of month is a whole lot of what I would call limited time offers. Mama, I gotta have it. I gotta have it right now. The sale is going away. This causes them to feel something called anticipatory regret. If we do not take this deal today, we will have FOMO and we will lose this amazing deal. And what I ask you and what we heard tonight is this deal won't be here tomorrow. If you don't take it, you're agreeing to spend an extra $12,339.54 over the course of 5 years to use these tasers, which are only about 10% better than the brand new tasers we have today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Evans Siegel, and for also the visual demonstration there. I think that may be a first on this council floor. So, Mr. Druffel, you are recognized, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Madam President. Could we get Deputy Chief Gilder? When I was at Budget Finance, some of those numbers, and I don't doubt most of those, but I got a different set of numbers that were in there. If I could ask Deputy Chief Gilder to possibly comment on those numbers and some of those projections.
So, Mr. Druffel, you can address a question to the administration, and you know, if the administration wants to be represented up here or MNPD, but I think if you are just wanting to verify that math with perhaps Ms. Wiggins or a member of the Finance Department?
Yeah, let me be more specific. The new per-use cost is different than I remember yesterday. So I would ask, is that the cost that we had discussed in budget finance as the new use? Or
Ms. Wiggins, from the Finance Department, you are recognized. Do you need any additional information to answer the question from
per
Ms.
user, right?
The
There was
per
a cost per
user.
user, different than what we have a current, we have a projected. That seemingly was different. I didn't write it down, but it seemed like it's different.
So the numbers that I have for the per user per month currently is $70 per the contract. $70 per month per user. The new price is $91.88 per month per user.
Correct. That's what I remember. So I don't quite, I see a difference here, but I just need to probably understand the delta or why there is a difference compared to what I understood yesterday.
So I can give you a little bit of, I could try to simplify the contract value for you because there's been some, I think, confusion. We had a $6.5 million contract. It's now 24.8. Okay, but we've already spent 3.9 million towards the 24.8. So that leaves 20.9 million left to spend. Remember, this is an IDIQ, which is an indefinite delivery, an indefinite quantity. Or I said IQID, I think. Anyway, so we're not automatically being billed every penny of that contract. We will be billed as we use it. And we have up to 24.8 million to spend. We've already spent 3.9. So we have $20.9 million to spend. If you take the 91.88 monthly charge, so that is $91.88 per month, times 12 months, times 1,658 tasers, times 10 years, that's the 18.3 million. So you've got 18.3 million that just the cost of the tasers itself to go towards that 20.9. You also have some training if an officer's belt clip breaks, replacements, but that's kind of the value of the contract.
Yeah, and thank you. That's what I understood. The per use fee is from Council Lady seemingly was different than what I understand from the 9188. It sounded like Council Lady Quinn had a higher usage. So maybe to qualify that so I understand it, the difference. So the question is, how do we reconcile Council Lady Quinn's and what?
I only have the numbers from the contract and I couldn't see the numbers.
Ms. Evans-Siegel, could you turn your demonstration board toward the administration so they can respond to, yeah.
I think it's a difference in use and user and how that's defined in the contract.
Okay, yeah. If you could remove the stick-ons, if that's possible, because what Councilman Druffel is trying to address are the figures that you provided. And so if we want the administration to respond to those, if you could please remove your water bottle as well from in front of it. Okay. And maybe that other one too. Okay. So Ms. Wiggins, are you clear on what Mr. Druffel's question is relative to the numbers that Ms. Evans-Siegel has asserted and what Mr. Druffel's questions, because this is Mr. Druffel's time, so.
I only have the numbers from the contract. So I mean, I listened and I've generally followed, but it looked like you took the total contract and divided it by users, and there could be, that's not what was in the so the $77 isn't in the contract. I think it's some quick math. It's not entirely different than the 70. I think I get your point, because I think you were then trying to get to a per use. So, I mean, I think you could take the actual numbers from the contract. I think you were trying to do some just simple rough math It's not entirely far off, but
Okay.
it gets down to a per use.
Okay, Mr. Dreffel, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I was trying to reconcile the differences, and I think I now understand a little bit more, but it's still a little foggy. Thank you.
Okay, next in the queue is Councilwoman Suara. You're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And if I may try to address that, is that she's using the total contract number, which is not just the per use, but also the training and every cost associated with it. So when she takes the total cost divided, that's where that number is coming from. So we have to look at the entire amount that we're spending, and that's what she's doing. So hope that clarifies it. So it's not just the per use, we have other costs associated with it. So thank you, Councilmember Quinn. She actually took all my numbers from me, and I'm so appreciative as the accountant on council that I don't have to do all the math anymore. But from what she's shown, like the little kids who said, the math ain't mathing. It's not adding up. It is not adding up for me. I have a question before I go some of my points. When I look at the fiscal analysis on the price and sheet, there is a page there that talks about the TESA 7, and then there's one that is highlighted in yellow that is TESA 10. Are we getting both, or is that just for demonstration purposes what TESA 10 represents?
So this contract is all for TASER 10s.
Okay, so the
that's why
7
that
was
was
just for analysis purposes. Okay, thank you. So we have a TESA that is X26 that we got in 2013, and we use it up to 2022. And then in 2022, we got TASER 7, right? And now, from what Ms. Wiggins was also telling me, we have a 6.5 million contract, which should be about 1.3 each year. But we did not use 1.3 each year. We've actually used 3.9 million for the 2 years that we have of the 6.5. What that shows you is that even if you go with the laser 10 and you go with the increased value, you will not pay just divided by 5 or 10. There's potential for it to continue to increase, and we might end up paying more than 24 million. That's what that shows, because if we're going at the 3.9 for 2 years, we will actually end up more than 6.5. So this is adding up a whole lot more. The other thing I want us to also consider is that we were told that a 5-year contract, or a test about 2 years ago, is no longer, it's not as good anymore in 2 years, but we want to sign 10-year contract. How does that make sense? Because if you sign 10 years, then definitely what we buy today will not be good again in 10 years. So why are we rushing to stop the one that we have and buy new ones and give them longer life than that we know we may not even need? It really is not adding up for me. It's not adding up. Somebody said it, we give the police a whole lot of money, we don't ask questions. When I was reading this, honestly, I thought we were being punked. It sounds like it was a joke. Like somebody's just trying to see whether we will read it or look at it. How do we go from 6.5 million to 24 million? How do we do that? And how do we make all these excuses that does not add up? The math is not adding up, folks. Let's use the one that we have. Let's see where it goes before we put 24 million. We can buy Morris Building or do something else. There's a whole lot of things we could do with the money. Thank you very much.
Okay, Councilwoman Sepulveda, you are next in the queue and you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. With this whole discussion, I've been experiencing a lot of deja vu. We've been here several times. We were here just last term. I've had to sit through budget cycles. I've had to sit through ARP meetings where everything that has come before us from MMPD has been approved. I don't understand how our priorities have become this. I don't understand how we look at teachers, how we look at students, how we look at our employees, how we look at our constituents who are asking for better schools, who are asking for textbooks, who are asking for livable wages, who are asking for affordable housing. And this is the priority that we keep coming back to. I also want to state that it's completely disrespectful for late filed bills from administrations, as it has been in the past, right? And it's also very disrespectful when departments come to us at the last minute telling us that we have to approve something right away or we're not going to get a good deal. That's disrespectful, and I have never voted for it, and I will continue not to vote for it. I also want to note that, it was noted that they are the only game in town. Well, it's the game in town that has been sued by 2 local governments for antitrust laws because they jacked up the prices on law enforcement equipment. They were sued by Augusta, Maine, and they were sued by Howell, New Jersey. That's who we're getting in bed with. That is the business partner that we're talking about right now. A company that has been sued by 2 local governments for jacking up their prices. I can't support that, and I would encourage you all not to support that as well.
Thank you, Councilwoman Sepulveda. Councilwoman Vo, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, in my research, looking up, this and finding out about Axion, that's what I found. And I was really disturbed by that as well, because the biggest part they said was it's about excessively long supply contracts. So when we started with a 5-year and now we're looking at a 10-year, these are things that are very, disturbing. And for me, I just want to make sure, are we, doing what is best by our community? And we already have a contract that does exist. And I also agree that we should finish this contract, make sure that we're doing everything, and then if it is time, we can come and look at it, because they came, just last year, and anything can happen. So I want to yield the rest of my time to Councilmember Porterfield.
Okay, Councilwoman Porterfield, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and thank you, Council Lady Vo. I appreciate that. I'll be brief because I already hit most of my points. I want to remind you all that this is the IDIQ contract, the same as the last contract was an IDIQ contract. That means there's no guarantee that we will not be asked to get new tasers prior to the end of the contract that we're looking at now. There's no guarantee that 6 months or a year into this contract we'll be asked for something newer and shinier. Now, we can use the current tasers. We are being told that we have to pass this now to get the cost avoidance. That's simply not true. We can use the current tasers until the end of their useful life. And if history repeats itself, there will be a new model of taser that we can purchase. From 2009 to 2013, new tasers were created every 2 years. And from 2013 to 2023, new tasers were created every 5 years, which means we can anticipate a new taser in 2028, which puts us getting new improved tasers again at the end of the use of life of the current working tasers. 10 years is a long time, and we have no reason to believe that this newer technology will not be coming out. We've heard that the new tasers can deploy at 45 feet versus the current tasers that deploy at 25 feet. Chief Gilder did advise us that we do not need to employ tasers that far. And per my conversation with Chief Drake, the vast majority of deployments happen between 5 to 6 feet. So while that's great that it's offered, it's not needed. We did ask if we could get a contract extension to have more time to consider this. Axon said it's been their practice to update their pricing going into the new year and that they've been doing that for the last 30 years. Colleagues, I would like to make sure that you know on February 1st, 2022, the administration at that time advised us that they worked with Axon to get the 2021 pricing going into 2022. And pricing that was only supposed to be good through January of 2022, the administration worked with them to get their pricing until February 1st. So they could if they wanted to, because they already have. Lastly, I have concerns with the ethics of the company. 9 out of the 12 members of their ethics board recently resigned, saying that they had lost faith in Axon's ability to be a responsible partner. And lastly, colleagues, if you think this is a good deal, I have some oceanfront property to sell you on Nolensville Road.
Okay, Councilwoman Weiner, you are next in the queue and recognized.
Thank you so much, Vice Mayor. I have some questions for the administration first. My first question is, can you please share why we have this now and didn't get it sooner?
Ms. Wiggins, is that to you?
Sure, I have some dates that might help. And talking to our procurement folks, they received the amendment request on September 18th. And on October 11th, procurement signed off it and sent it back to Axon, who sent it back to Metro on 10/26. So on October 26th, we had this back. Metro began circulating the documents on 10/27. But that is the noon deadline on the 27th, and it didn't complete all of the circulation of signatures. So that's the time frame that I have, that we got it back from Axon on 10/26.
Okay, Ms. Weiner, back to you. Do you have additional questions or comments?
Yeah, thank you. Can you share with us why the need to do this now? And why not wait And what would
Ms. Weiner,
waiting?
could you
Yes,
put your mic a little closer to your mouth, please,
I
ma'am?
can. Thank you. So can you share why we need to do this now? And in answering that, share with, if we didn't do this now, what are the repercussions, if any?
Mr. Sexton, you're recognized.
It is our understanding from the information that was shared with us that in order to take advantage of the current cost avoidance, that it has to pass the 3 readings before the end of the year, of the year. So.
Okay, thank you for that. So we have another, as everybody knows, last minute bill, which again, I'm not happy with. Is this not a 5-year option on top of the 5-year renewal? Isn't this 5 years with a 5-year renewal that we can also speak to?
Ms. Wiggins is the administration is indicating yes.
Okay.
In answer to
So
your question.
If the answer to that is yes, my next question would be, insofar as getting updated equipment through the course of the first 5 years and through the course of the second 5 years, do we get upgraded technology during that time?
Ms. Wiggins, can you answer that question? Or is anyone at the administration able to answer? Okay, the administration is indicating they do not know the answer, but Ms. Wiggins, do you seek to be recognized?
Yes, please.
Okay, go ahead.
I can't say for sure, but the contract is written for the TASER 10. So in all of the discussions yesterday at Budget and Finance, today at Public Health and Safety, the contract is for the TASER 10. So the current contract is for the TASER 7. In order for a new product, there would be a contract amendment.
Okay, so I'm having obvious heartburn over this. I'm having heartburn over the fact that, yes, we are living net tango again in the very next meeting. And to Councilmember Johnson's point, yeah, we need to fix it, and that fix is coming. Having said that, though, I have so much angst surrounding not bringing this out. Everybody and his brother across the country, from what I have read, wants this technology because it's improved. It is improved for one reason and one reason only, so that the victim and so that the officer and so that the perpetrator of the alleged crime are managed in a safer way. And the one thing that we have all been doing for all this time is crying out for de-escalation. So my vote is going to have to be for de-escalation, because that's what we want.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Weiner. Councilman Cupin, you are next in the queue and you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, MMPD and everyone else for prioritizing lowered use of force and for the time spent educating us on the issue. The question has come up, what is the value of a life? And I agree with that. And we have been ranked consistently lowest in pedestrian and bicycle safety. If we want to save lives, let's build sidewalks, let's put lights on streets. There's a lot of ways to do this, and I'm aware there's not an apples to apples finance conversation here, but I think the distinction is important. I met with MNPS today in an unrelated issue, and they discussed computer charger cases that have technology that is so outdated, they no longer function, and they are sitting in a storage unit waiting to be used, waiting to be upgraded because they don't have the money to bring them up to speed. So again, I just think that, to Councilman Porterfield's point, if we're tightening the belt in other places, we need to tighten the belt across the board. I think this technology sounds great. It sounds important. It sounds like something that down the road we can look at and support. But to me, again, it feels like the net tango conversation. Again, it feels like we're still trying to rush things. And to Councilman Evan Siegel's point, just because we need to get it by the end of the year because we're going to miss out on pricing. And to me, those aren't reasons to make decisions. I want to make decisions fiscally responsibly. I want to make them because my constituents want them. I want to make them because they make sense, not because I might not take advantage of the latest deal. As a business person, that's really an important analysis piece. I spent a lot of time today thinking about this and weighing the pros and cons, but at the end of the day, I just can't support it, and I hope my colleagues agree with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Coopin. Councilman Parker, you are next in the queue and recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I just wanted to address one point that was brought up. A lot of good points have been made, and I'm not going to repeat any of those, but about 3 years ago in December of 2020, there was an incident in my district on West Sharp Avenue. A man, Larry Boyd, got into a domestic altercation that escalated drastically. The police were called. It was, really after reviewing the body cam footage, everything right was done. They were able to separate him from the other people in the house who had called the police, got him outside. He continued to resist arrest, and he was then tased, and he did die from that. So, again, that's the police doing everything right, and it still happens in that instance. So the notion that these less lethal force implements are non-lethal is false. They are less lethal. And I just wanted to share that. It may be very rare. That may be the only case of someone dying from being tased in recent years, but it did happen. It did happen 3 years ago in December of 2020 in my district. So I just needed to share that.
Thank you, Councilman Parker. Councilwoman Benedict, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Call the question.
Councilwoman Benedict has called the previous question. That is a non-debatable motion that requires 2/3 of those voting. Calling the question would end debate on this bill as substituted and amended. With that, Mr. Clerk, would you please open the voting tablet? Colleagues, ITS is on the floor. If you require their assistance, I see Mr. Eastlick needs assistance, please. Is anyone else requiring assistance on their voting tablet? Okay, all votes are in. With that, please close the vote, Mr. Clerk, and show the vote. Okay, the motion to call the question prevails. 26 votes were required for the 39 of us in attendance. So with that, we will proceed to the vote without further debate. What is before you, colleagues, is BL 2023-113 as substituted and amended. It has been moved and properly seconded. All in, what should we? Okay, I think we're just going to, I apologize, colleagues. We're just going to go to a machine vote on this, okay? So, Mr. Clerk, if you would please open the machines on agenda item 40. Oh, pardon me. Yes. Councilwoman Allen, you're recognized for a point of order.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If this is appropriate, if you could just point out that this is second reading and that if it were to fail tonight, it would end. If it were passed tonight, there can be additional debate and information on third reading.
Okay.
I think that's a point of order.
Yes, I appreciate that point of parliamentary inquiry or point of order. Yes, this is a bill on second reading. Okay, we have, do you have a point of order? Point of order. Okay. Okay, so is it a point of parliamentary inquiry as to the nature of the amendability of the bill on third or not? Yes. Okay, The question to Special Counsel Darby then, as a point of order, is this bill amendable on third? Ms. Darby?
The bill is not amendable on third reading.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay. Indeed, one can always suspend the rules for a amendment, but, right. Okay. So any other questions, parliamentary inquiries, points of order prior to taking this vote, which we will do by machine on agenda item 44 BL 2023-113 as substituted and amended on second reading, not amendable on third unless there is a suspension of the rules. Okay. All right. Mr. Clerk, please open the tablets. Majority. Majority. Okay, with all votes in, Mr. Clerk, please call the vote. Or please close the machines and call the vote. Okay, the bill fails on second reading. Okay, that concludes our items on second reading, and we are moving to what I believe is the last item on our agenda this evening that was removed from consent on third. Stick with me here, colleagues. Agenda item 48, BL 2023 -80, sponsors Bradford, Porterfield, Gamble, and Evans, is an ordinance approving a lease agreement between the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County and Nashville Metropolitan LLC for office space at 1281 Murfreesboro Pike, Nashville, Tennessee. We are going to do this by voice. As I understand it, we will have an abstention. Okay. Well, fair. Okay. Don't want to get ahead of myself. Councilman Bradford, you are recognized on your bill, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I believe there's all committee reports are in, so I just move for approval.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay, properly moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing no one seeking to be recognized, would all in favor please say aye?
Aye.
Anyone voting no? Anyone abstaining? Councilwoman Kimbrough, you are seeking to abstain. Mr. Clerk, if you would please record that. All right, colleagues. Is there a motion to adjourn? Okay.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.